Muslims, the Quran teaches that Jesus was one of Allah's prophets. The Quran teaches that Jesus wasn't killed at the hands of the Jews. The Quran is at the very least wrong on one or two of these points. I'm looking here at Mark 8:31 through 33. This is Jesus predicting his death. He then began to teach them that the Son of Man... come on, turn this thing off. Then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Now, why I say the Quran is either wrong on one or two of these points, very simply, this is Jesus' first prediction of his death. And why I am firmly inclined to believe, and I really believe that someone who is making a contrary case just has a whale of a case to plead. I really believe this is something that we can safely say that Jesus did say, because this is not something that the church or Mark or whomever would make up about Peter. I mean, this is being written either right around the end of Peter's ministry or after the man died. Probably around 65, thereabouts, no later than 70. After Peter goes on to glory, do we really make up a story about him, A, not completely, just stupidly not getting it, and rebuking Jesus Christ, like, "No, Bolf, you got it all wrong. That's you shouldn't be saying these things." I don't think so. And certainly, do you really make up a story? This is the Petros, the rock upon whom Christ built his church. No, it doesn't mean he's the first pope, so everybody relax. But anyway, Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." Do you really think a scribe or Mark or so would make up that Jesus called Peter Satan? Satan. I mean, of all the rebukes, Satan. It is my firm opinion that it seems unreasonable that this would be something made up by a later scribe or by the author of the Gospel of Mark. I want to take a look at how the church viewed Peter after his death. This is 1 Clement chapter 5. Now, chapter 4, Church of Rome is talking about all the Old Testament heroes. You know, Abel, Jacob, Joseph, King David, all the examples of these great heroes of the faith, and how they suffered because of the envy of others. And then, what do they say next? But let's not dwell upon ancient examples. Let's come to the most recent spiritual heroes. Let's take the noble examples furnished in our own generation. Through envy and jealousy, the greatest and most righteous pillars of the church have been persecuted and put to death. Let us set our eyes before the illustrious apostles. Peter, through unrighteous envy, endured not one, not two, but numerous labors, which he finally suffered martyrdom, departed to the place of glory due to him. This is 89 to 95. This is written. And this is the kind of language that people used about Peter at that point after his death. I mean, they turned him into, they viewed him as a man on a pedestal. Here's in 107. Here's Ignatius of Antioch writing to the Church of Rome. I do not, as Peter and Paul, issue commands to you. They were apostles. I am but a condemned man. They were free, while I am, even until now, a servant. You know, Ignatius was probably ordained by Peter, and he doesn't even consider him anywhere close to the status of his Jedi Master. And lastly, Irenaeus in Against Heresies, this is about 180 or so, talks about the church in Rome, founded and organized by the two most glorious apostles, Peter and Paul. After the death of Peter, he was not regarded as some loudmouth buffoon. He was regarded as one of the two most glorious, wondrous apostles. And with this kind of evidence, you really have a heck of a case to make that, you know, a later scribe made up that Peter was called Satan by Jesus, and Peter stupidly took Jesus Christ aside and lectured him. It just strikes me as something that just kind of happened. And if Peter lecturing Jesus just kind of happened, he was lecturing him because Jesus was talking about the fact that he would be dying at the hands of the Jews. If Jesus predicted that he was dying at the hands of the Jews, and he didn't die at the hands of the Jews, he's not a prophet. So the Quran's wrong there. Or if Jesus predicted that he died at the hands of the Jews, and he did die at the hands of the Jews, then he's a prophet, but the Quran is wrong about him not dying at the hands of the Jews. So I guess the question I want to ask Muslims is, on which point is the Quran wrong?